Well, for decades, comic books have been all the rage. Marvel, DC Comics, just to name a few. So what little girl or boy didn't want to be Spider-Man or Wonder Woman?
Yeah, well, this morning, Vic Carter introduces us to a man who made a successful career and collection out of a passion for comic books. Please welcome Steve Geppi.
When you mention the Library of Congress, the campy, comedic, high-adventure scenes of Batman and Robin, Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck are not the first things that come to mind. But now, that has changed.
I love when I go to Disney World and they have Xerox. And I had the originals, and they're super valuable.
This is Steve Geppi. Some in Baltimore may not know who he is, but around the world he is a household name, whether people know it or not. He is the owner of Diamond Comic Distributors, the largest distributor of English-language comic books, toys, and games in the world. All this from a Baltimore boy of meager beginnings.
Tell us the story of Steve Geppi.
Grew up in Little Italy in Baltimore, went to St. Leo's School, 8 years, graduated, all ready to go to Calvert Hall with my buddies and aced the test. And that was the day I found out I was poor because my mother couldn't afford. So I did go to school for 3 months at Mergenthal, or Mervo as we affectionately call it. But at that point, my mother was going on welfare. She was at food stamps, and my father was never in the family, so I had to go to work.
Geppi had a love of comic books. In a way, like most kids, they were his escape. A fantasy world where he could immerse far away from life's realities on the streets of Baltimore. But then he soon realized that these comic books had value beyond their swashbuckling high-adventure stories. He saw an opportunity and began asking people he knew for their old comic books, even a woman on his mail route when he worked for the post office.
And God bless her, Mrs. Danatel. She had a collection that her son had, but he was away in college, where I should have been, and I had to torture that poor woman for 3 months to get his permission to sell to me. But at the time when I did that, I had no idea they were valuable.
Soon after Geppi went to comic book conventions, he bought and resold and bought again, building what is now an international empire.
There's an opportunity here for everybody, no matter what. I'm a poor kid in Little Italy. I got no advantage. But I had one thing. I had a mother who only went to like the 3rd grade who taught me the moral, hard work, be honest, do the things you would have done for you, you know, the golden rule, so to speak. And I guess that was the secret to me, because I believe that I've lived kind of the American dream, and I believe the American dream is really very available to anybody.
Today, Geppi has warehouses of comic books, new and old. This one in Maryland is among the smallest.
1982, comic books. See, I couldn't work here because I spent all my time reading.
What do you think happens when I come over here?
But in Olive Branch, Mississippi, he has a 600,000 square foot distribution center. For perspective's sake, the average IKEA store is 300,000 square feet. This map shows some of the other sites. And that brings us here, to the Library of Congress, where Geppi's name will adorn a room housing some of his most valued treasures. More than 3,000 items have been donated, including the original drawings of Mickey Mouse.
Forgive me for asking this, but could you put a dollar value on what you have donated to the Library of Congress?
Well, Mickey's took it north. It's definitely around 8 figures.
Are you aware that your face lights up quite a bit when you start talking about comics?
I'm told that a lot. I can't help it. I can't help it. They make me happy.
Behind the boyish, cherub-looking face is a 72-year-old man who works as hard today as he did when he first started.
You think you'll ever stop?
I'm blessed every day that I'm still here, but I can't even contemplate the concept of retirement. Because I feel like I'm 72, but in my heart, I'm 27. A few years ago, I put out an email to my employees. I said, I'm going to be announcing my semi-retirement. I'm down to 60 hours a week.
Wow.
Amazing.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Learned so much about Steve Geppi, and we're going to even learn more in just a moment because Vic is here with us. He is in the cube.
Yes, he's going to join us in just a few minutes, and we'll hear all about what it was like to work on this story in our Behind the Lens segment. We will be right back.
And God bless her, Mrs. Danatel. She had a collection that her son had, but he was away in college, where I should have been. And I had to torture that poor woman for 3 months to get his permission to sell to me. But at the time when I did that, I had no idea they were valuable.
What an amazing story, an amazing life this man has lived. Vic, we're so happy to hear about this. And I love what he said about the American dream, that he's living it.
Very much so. I mean, imagine this. He goes from Little Italy, unable to afford to go to school,
right,
and having a mother who went on welfare and food stamps, and he picked up the gauntlet, and his life just kind of took off.
Absolutely.
At what point did he know, gee, these things may be valuable? Maybe this is actually going to represent money in my life somehow.
If nothing else, Steve Geppi is a keen observer of people, and he noticed that people would have these comic books, and then they go back, and some of them would reread them, and some stores would have them in the back, the copies they didn't sell, and he'd buy them and found out that, you know, over a period of time that some parts of the country didn't have these. So he became an access point for a lot of that. Yes, very much so.
Really smart.
And you were saying that there's some cool items that we didn't get to see that
Yes.
are going to be in the Library of Congress.
Yes.
Pretty spectacular.
Yes, absolutely. There already are a number of items in the Library of Congress. They're building a permanent space for him. You'll see Steve Geppi's name there, 3,000 pieces.
Wow.
Including the mold for G.I. Joe.
Amazing.
The original drawings for Captain America. And of course, you know, the drawings of Mickey Mouse alone.
That is so cool.
Those are absolutely priceless. You know, I
Yes.
asked him what the value was of the donation, and I mean, there's absolutely no way to really and truly calculate that.
Eight figures, that's pretty impressive.
Yes.
Exactly.
Any number you put in 8 figures.
Yes.
Now, his collection is more than just comics. I remember he collects sports memorabilia.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Some of the information we weren't able to put in there, we were walking through that warehouse, as I said, is one of the smaller ones that he
Right.
has. And there are baseball bats from baseball players here and around the world. He loves baseball.
Yes.
There are a lot of things he loves. I told him, I said, you know, you're like Peter Pan. He said, yeah, you're right. I don't ever want to grow up. And so this man at 72 years old, he has recaptured his youth and is hanging on to it through the items that he collects, through the things that he distributes, and he's creating joy for people. You know, people get a chance to escape from what's going on in reality.
Totally.
And go back. I mean, I wanted to stay in that warehouse all day, just rifle through everything, you know.
I bet. Well, we're glad you came back to tell us about it so you can be a part of it. Thank
And
you,
we're
Vic.
very glad that he has given this the Library of
Yes,
Congress. It's
that's
a
so
wonderful
cool.
thing to
Dr.
do.
Carla Hayden's very, very happy to have
I'll
this
bet
collection.
she is.
Yes.